This butternut squash I harvested at the beginning of October last year in 2024. It is now mid-July and it's still going strong. And there we are. That's still as good as the day that we picked it. Ever looked at a massive trug of courgettes or beetroots or berries and wondered, what am I going to do with all of this?
Gluts are one of the good problems that we face in summer. But if you don't have a plan, all they're going to do is feed your compost heap. Today we shall be sharing with you how we preserve our vegetables.
At this time of the year, everything all seems to come at once. One day you're waiting on your very first courgette, and a week later you have 10.
Now we love to have an abundance, but if you don't plan in advance, that abundance can become a stress. This time of year, I like to have a good stock of vinegar, sugar, different sugars. There's jam sugar, there's plain caster sugar, freezer bags, labels, a good stock of jars and freezer containers. I also make sure I always have a good few sachets of wine yeast, because there are so many ways you can preserve the gluts that we get and use the gluts that we get. All of these things will help us to process this lovely abundance that we get.
At this time of the year, if you sow them at the same time as us, your onions are likely to be becoming ready. If you sow them a bit later, it will happen a bit later. But once they are ready, once you can see that the necks are going over, it's time to pick them. These will store for many, many months. All we shall do is to put these into a crate, not pile on top of one another. They need a bit of air space between them so that the air can flow, and let the warm summer days dry them off. You want this neck to be completely dry, no longer green. That's going to take about 3 to 4 weeks. Having weather like we're having at the moment, you could, if you're not going to be replanting, just leave them on top of the soil and they will do their thing. But if you're expecting heavy rain, do make sure that you do remove them out of the rain. I generally put ours, as I say, into crates, and they go on the shelf in our compost bays, and they'll cure nicely there over that period of time. Once you get them to that stage, you can be using these all the way up until next May. The same will be happening with our shallots. They're all now starting to fall over just like these onions. We shall be picking those this weekend, and they will go through the same process. The real bonus with shallots is they last even longer than onions.
Today I have been processing some of our red currants into our red currant jelly, and I've added a bit of rosemary in with it this year, so I've already started a lot of my preserving for 2025. And there's various ways that you can preserve your vegetables and fruits during the year. Obviously there's the jams, there's the pickles, freezing them, and a new way of preserving for us is with our dehydrator, which has been quite good fun. We've had a little bit of a try with different things. Last year the sun-dried tomatoes were really good. That was really good for those. And we've dried some herbs. I've actually been making wedding confetti from the dried rose petals in it as well. So there's many things that you can do with these dehydrators, and they're quite a good thing to have. There is also the canning method, which we're hoping to get into later this year, quite intrigued by that. I know my grandmother used to do that quite a lot with different fruits. She had a lovely pear tree and she used to can all her pears. That was really lovely. So that's another good way of preserving.
Now, if you're anything like us, we have lots of beetroot. I've needed to clear one of the raised beds because I need to plant something else in there. But what are we going to do with these beetroots? Well, they will actually last in a plastic bag that's got holes cut into it. For a good 2 to 3 months, they'll stay nice and firm and ready for you to eat. The main way to do that is to first of all take the leaves off, but leave about an inch of the stalk on top. Whatever you do, do not wash them. Brush off as much soil as you can while you're in the garden, and then once you've taken the leaves off, pop them into a bag. You can put 2 or 3 in that bag and they'll store happily in the crisper drawer of your fridge for the next couple of months or so. Beetroots can also be frozen. If you boil them to cook them, let them cool down, then chop them up into the desired sizes and then pop them into a freezer bag, this time not with holes. They will store for much longer in your freezer. And a top tip, once you have removed these leaves, they're really good in salads, so do add them to your summer salads. Like all root vegetables, you can also store them out in your garage or shed, so long as it's cool and frost free. What I like to do is to store them in some compost. I tend to use my 30-litre tubs, and I add a layer of compost and then add the root vegetables in there so that they're not touching. Then I can put another layer on and put another layer of vegetables in there, so on until you reach the top. And all you have to do is to go into your shed or garage and just have a look for where they are and take them and use them. And a top tip here is, for myself and Mrs. W, we grow all of our potatoes in containers. That spent compost is a really good thing to use to store these root vegetables. You don't have to buy any more fresh compost or use the compost you're making.
And with your soft fruits, to freeze them, I would always pick through the gooseberries, top and tail, any of them that have got anything on, take out any leaves, any stems, anything like that. Pop them into a colander, give them a rinse and tap under the tap. And then on a tray with a clean dry tea towel, I would just simply place the fruit onto the tea towel individually like that, and in one layer pop that into the freezer, so you're freezing them individually. Once they're frozen, put them into your freezer bag or a storage container, back into the freezer. You can then go to them whenever you want and they will be individually frozen. So if you only wanted a handful of something, maybe say for a smoothie, then you can just grab that handful and leave the rest in the freezer. They will all clump together so that you can get easy access to them. Same with the blackcurrants. Take off any stems and stalks, leaves, and again wash them, freeze them individually. You can also make jams and preserves with these fruits. You can also make wine with these fruits and different gin infusions. There's all sorts of things you can do with these fruits. They are so versatile.
One of my most favourite ways that Mrs. W actually uses our fruit that we can enjoy is by making fruit wines. And let me tell you folks, there is nothing better than at the end of a long day in the garden, sitting on our bench with the lion, admiring all of the work we've done and all of the harvests that are there and waiting for us, all with a glass of gooseberry, redcurrant, blackcurrant or raspberry wine. Courgettes, of course, you get plenty of courgettes at this time of the year, and you're probably wondering how you can keep up with them. Now, you can keep them for a good couple of weeks in the refrigerator, but in the case of these, they want to be in a paper bag. And don't put them in when they're wet, so again, don't wash them, and they'll keep fine there for a good week or so. You can also freeze them, and you don't need to do anything else other than to chop them up and put them into your freezer bags and then into the freezer. However, just do be aware that they probably won't be good to eat as a vegetable, because once they defrost, they are somewhat softer and more mushier. But Mrs. W has told me that she often freezes these and then adds them to her tomato sauces, where the mushiness doesn't really matter and you still get all the goodness from these in your tomato sauces. Now, also, one of our favourite ways to use up all of these courgettes is to actually make courgette fritters. These were actually from last night, and we made a batch of several up. They've been in the fridge. What I actually then like to do in the morning is to reheat them, either through the air fryer or just in an oven, and then put an egg on top, and they make an absolutely superb breakfast. The other thing that Mrs. W does like to do, and I really do like this, I think it was Anita that sent us this recipe, but a courgette and lemon drizzle cake. That looks really good, Mrs. W.
It does, doesn't it?
And I'm looking forward to tucking into that. This time of the year, runner beans are all the rage. They're running away with us. We have so many, and I do hope you have too. Runner beans can be frozen successfully. You just need to chop them up into the desired size, blanch them, and then put them into bags and freeze them. You can also do things like make chutney with them. Mrs. W makes a really good runner bean chutney. And things like runner beans and French beans, they can also be successfully canned. I do know that. So hopefully that will be something we should be trying a little bit later on. So do look out for that video when it comes out. I do hope that this has given you a few ideas of what you could be doing with all of your gluts. And if you would like us to make a full video on some of these methods so that you can see exactly what you could be doing, then do let us know in the comments, and then we'll produce some videos or more videos on preserving. To help you out, I put a playlist together of all of the preserves that we've done over the last 2 or 3 years and Mrs. W's most popular recipes. So watch this playlist next.